What's up, Freedom Chiropractic? This is Dr. Devin Coughlin, and just going to quickly go through a video with you. And I just want to share with you some specifically nutritional information here. And so when we look through, this is what we've created as far as a food guide pyramid. I understand a lot of people have different approaches on, dietary recommendations, what a food guide pyramid looks like. But when you think about what the USDA has put out for many years, the bottom was all carbs. And I think that we can all agree that was probably a bad recommendation, really definitely a bad recommendation for quite some time. So as we're going through this and we're going to just kind of touch on some different parts here, love to get feedback and see, because, some people have just slightly differing views on, whether there be certain fats or proteins or whatever the case may be. This is something that we found to be very, very, very effective, and really combining like a paleo type diet along with a just ancestral diet in general, but also we've included some other things. Like you'll see, there are some grains on this pyramid, because I do think there's a place for that. Now, again, if you have certain sensitivities or certain problems, then by all means, then there could be something that we would rule out there. But in looking at this here, a couple rules. Certainly, if you look on the right here, we want to make sure that we have organic whenever possible. Obviously, there's so much that goes on with processed foods and pesticides, and genetically modified foods is the other big thing. So again, we want to have organic whenever possible. Again, I am a fan of consuming animal products. If you are consuming animal products, you want to make sure they're 100% grass fed or wild caught, meaning, again, seafood being wild caught, grass fed being like whether it be cow or buffalo or even chickens. Chickens are going to eat grass and bugs and things like that. So again, you want to make sure that it's going to be like grazing on its most natural environment or habitat. Those of you that eat wild game, again, wild game is going to be, eating plants, essentially, not eating corn and soy and the things that they're going to eat in feedlots. If you look on the left side here, again, we want to make sure that we're avoiding any kind of processed soy. Very few soy products are actually beneficial. Any genetically modified organism, again, that's going to be things that they'll genetically introduce to change the DNA of these foods. And then again, fats and oils. Again, you've heard of like the big thing now is people say like vegetable oils or um, these oils that are going to be seed oils, essentially. So again, canola, corn, cottonseed, palm, peanut, canola, safflower, soybean, sunflower, vegetable. These are going to be highly inflammatory oils. So these are things that like you don't want to have as part of your diet on a regular basis. They're going to create inflammation. They're high in omega-6 fatty acids, which are going to create inflammation in your joints. They're going to create inflammation in your blood vessels. So these are things that are going to basically create clogging of your arteries. And forever, the USDA told us to eat vegetable oils, not fats, not animal fats, but vegetable fats. Again, couldn't be more wrong if you tried. And again, you look at like research now is more open about saying that was wrong. But for a long time, that was kind of swept under the rug and assumed to be correct because the USDA was telling us to do that. On another video I'll go over, they actually did another study recently where they like ranked like the value of foods as far as like healthiest to least healthy. And you're going to be shocked by some of the things that they found on that. Again, all the more reason we don't want to trust the USDA or the United States government giving us nutritional information. But again, looking at this food guide pyramid here, you're going to see the foundation. Again, our ancestors thrived on eating stews and soups. So they would cook their food. They would cook, typically vegetables or root vegetables in an animal-based broth, whether it be beef or, a beef type of animal, some sort of a bird broth like a chicken or a turkey, and then seafood broth as well. Those were foundational things as part of our ancestors' diet, where, again, a lot of vegetables and root vegetables are not digestible unless they are cooked, and that actually releases the nutrients, makes them much more easy to absorb and digest. So and even if you look at like ancient Chinese medicine, a lot of food is eaten warm. They promote warm food intake and actually warm liquid intake. So again, we want to make sure that we're having broth, stew, and soup as a major part of our diet, foundational. Again, a lot of vegetables need to be eaten after they are cooked. Again, whether that be sauteed or stewed in some sort of a broth, like I mentioned before. A lot of fruit can be eaten fresh. Fruit is nature's gift to us. That's the plant's way of saying, eat this and spread the seeds around, essentially is what that is. The plant doesn't want to be eaten. It gives the fruit to be eaten. Again, raw honey, which is very hard to find, but again, raw honey is going to be high in probiotics and all different, beneficial nutrients there. Fermented foods are going to be high in probiotics. That's going to be things like sauerkraut or kimchi, or even fermented dairy products like our raw cheese or different types of yogurt can be very, very valuable. We want to make sure if we are consuming dairy, again, I mentioned cheese before, you want to have raw or unpasteurized dairy as much as possible if you're going to be consuming dairy. And then again, you want to make sure you're getting plenty of purified water. If you have a well, your well is generally going to be high in certain minerals and nutrients. And so you want to make sure that you can still filter out, whether it be iron or some of the hardness that's in the water, you can filter that out. But again, you want to make sure that you're having purified water. And then if you are taking supplements, again, I think there's a place for a lot of supplements. I think we can overdo it, but certain supplements can be very beneficial for us. Going back to the water real quick, one of the best things you can do is put in real salt or some sort of sea salt into your water to get minerals and help you hydrate. You'll see all these different electrolyte drinks out there, these powders that are just like loaded with artificial sweeteners and all these natural flavors that are like very, very strong. I'm going to recommend you minimize that and really focus on sea salt, or actually a company called Redmond that makes something called real salt. That's my favorite one. They actually get that from Salt Flats in Utah. Again, can be very, very beneficial. When we move up the foundation of the food pyramid here, we look at healthy fats. You want to have healthy fats a major part of your diet. Again, that's going to be olive oil, avocados, coconut products, grass-fed butter. Again, these were told, we were told, oh, you can't eat butter, you got to eat margarine. There couldn't have been a bigger lie in the history of nutrition. You want to make sure you're getting plenty of grass-fed butter. It's going to be a major part. It's a saturated fat, but it's a major, it's full of nutrients, and you want to make sure you're getting that part of your diet. Fish oil, omega-3 fish oil, again, you can get that from certain shellfish as well. Omega-3s are super, super important for our cardiac health, for our brain health. You want to make sure you're doing that. You'll see certain nuts and seeds can be high in omega-3s. Again, nuts can be a little tricky. They can be hard to digest. They can create allergies for a lot of people. They can be very difficult to digest. Like, believe it or not, like if you actually read about cashews, people that harvest cashews actually have to wear gloves and everything because they can be so toxic. So one way that you can minimize the toxicity of nuts or how they're hard to digest is actually to soak them in water. That removes something called lectins. And when you remove lectins from nuts and seeds, they become much more digestible and the nutrients are more readily available. So again, like if you were to have soaked nuts or seeds, again, they can be very beneficial. And then really any kind of grass-fed animal fat is going to be beneficial as well. Big thing now is beef tallow, and people are actually buying that and they're using it for cooking. And again, our ancestors did that as well. But again, that's going to be a much better option than these seed oils that you see on the left of the chart here. When we look at proteins, again, we're going to move over to proteins here. Again, I'm a fan of animal proteins. Can you get some protein from vegetable and legume and things like that? You certainly can. You're not going to match the quality of the amino acids, the quality of the protein, the creatine content that you're going to get from grass-fed beef, wild game, seafood. Again, all these different things are going to be super, super high in high quality protein. They're complete proteins, meaning they have all the amino acids there. Again, you're going to get omega-3 fatty acids as well. So you're going to get your healthy fat dose when you're eating these certain things there. Again, pasture-raised chicken, eggs. Again, you could do duck eggs or quail eggs as well. Raw dairy is high in protein as well. One of the things I've gotten into more recently is actually, harvesting wild game. Literally this past weekend, I had some awesome venison steaks that my son and I, were able to get on our own accord. And then I actually will have that left over with breakfast. So I'll have like venison, eggs, and some sauteed veggies as part of like a breakfast omelet. Really, really good options that you're going to be able to get there. And again, if you're the one harvesting it, there's nothing going on there. It's all natural. No artificial things there. When we look at veggies, again, some veggies can be consumed raw, certainly lettuces and salads and things like that. Although when you get into like spinach and kale, they can be more beneficial if they're actually cooked. Again, vegetables have their place. We don't want to go crazy. You'll see I don't have it at the bottom of the foundation there. It's actually more at the top. It's going to be a more reasonable amount that we're going to get. Again, my biggest preference as far as consuming vegetables is cooked. Whether it be broccoli or cauliflower, I love those vegetables. And when you cook them, you actually make them more digestible. Again, salads can be great raw, things like that. Fruit, again, you'll see some places are anti-fruit. Yes, fruit can be high in fructose, but fruit's also extremely high in fiber, vitamins, minerals. There's a time and place for fruit for sure. And certainly you can focus on lower glycemic fruits like berries, things like that. But again, fruit just brings a lot of nutrients to the table. It's satisfying. It's really like nature's dessert. We don't need all these fancy desserts. Like fruit will satisfy that sugar craving that we can all have. Then you look at grains and starchy vegetables. Again, our healthiest carb options are without a doubt these starchy vegetables. So things like sweet potatoes, red skin potatoes can be very good as well. You'll see on here there's like beets and some of our starchy squashes, things like that. They can be really good options. If you are going to eat grains, like whether it be wheat or rice, again, you want to make sure it's organic, non-GMO. I do consume some wheat, some rice, and things like that. I do think it can be part of a really good balanced diet. Certainly shouldn't be the foundation where you're getting like 12 servings a day. But again, you can get some really, really healthy, nutrients and calories from some organic grains. Certainly, I would say sweet potatoes are probably the overall best bet for any kind of starchy vegetable there. Then you're going to see the top here again. This is going to be treats. We can have whether it be sweeteners like I'll use maple syrup for coffee sweetener, or maple syrup you can use and make your own ice cream with your own like raw dairy. You can do that with a number of desserts. You can sweeten with maple syrup or honey, which would be a much better option than using like a refined sugar. You can get some really good gluten-free options when it comes to making your own desserts and things like that. In my family, we love ice cream. So again, we often make our own ice cream and we'll use all organic ingredients there. Again, dark chocolate can be beneficial. It can be high in flavonoids and antioxidants. Coconut oil, again, you can use in a lot of recipes, whether you're baking or making some sort of like you can make like a chocolate, peanut butter, coconut oil mix for some different things like that. So again, you're going to have these more sparingly, but the foundation is definitely going to be, like we have laid out here. Again, based more on our ancestry, not all these modern fad diets. And you're going to see all these different like meal replacements and artificial foods and things like that. Like you want to be eating real food cooked at home. That's going to be some of your main things that you want to be focusing on. So again, just want to take some time to share that with you. And if you have any feedback or you disagree or you agree, whatever the case is, or you have some other suggestions, go ahead and leave some feedback here. And we can talk more about it and go from there. All right. Again, hope you're blessed and we'll talk to you soon.